Hey Nation Harry here. I am at the Acronis Cyberfit Summit 2001. After a 1 year absence, we're back at the Fountain Blue in Miami, and I'm with SB. How you doing?
Doing fine.
Good. So what's going on? What's your story? Talk to us.
Well, I'm no longer a CEO, so
Yeah.
I mean, my story, I'm a chief research officer and I'm focused on longer term research. But if you talk about Acronis, everything's going well. Finally, we can meet people in person. Finally, our strategy with service providers is way more than half of our business.
Yeah.
Way more than half of our annualized recurring revenue. It's growing very rapidly. It's in a way, for me as an entrepreneur, it's a bit of a strange situation because I talk to partners here and I ask them what's wrong, and they say pretty much nothing. They say like it's good.
Yeah.
It's like, "Yeah, what can I do for you?" And they say, well, we're growing fast. And say like, what else? They say, well, and then there is a pause, and then they come up with some things, but they all look quite benign, and so it's a bit boring.
There you go.
But in addition to that, we have a lot of roadmap plans,
Yes, you
and
do.
marketing plans, and product program plans, which are to be executed.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was interesting about this conference, and again, my compliments after 1 year away, as many conferences did. You have a robust show, and it's great to be back in person. But you're also going to Dubai and Singapore. Talk to me about that. That you're dispersing the event model a little bit.
Actually, it's much more than Dubai and Singapore. It's also Schaffhausen.
Okay.
And Schaffhausen is our headquarters in Switzerland. We're a Swiss company. And when we started, actually, I insisted on Schaffhausen, and it's probably going to be equally popular venue. And the reason we initially wanted to do it, and was a bit controversial then, but it's clear it was a good idea, is that people can't travel. So, like, we have LATAM partners, they want to come here, they could not come here.
Correct.
And they want European partners, they wanted to come here, they could not come here. So we have to offer them Dubai and Schaffhausen. And for Asian partners, hopefully Singapore plans to open up, and so they can travel to Singapore.
Yeah.
And so it's just related to COVID. Next year, we hope to go back to the model where we have maybe 3 events, but there is one big event, which
Yeah.
is here.
Well, I hope it's here.
With 1.5 thousand. I mean, the venue could be small, so for us, so 1.5 thousand people. And then we have smaller events in probably Dubai and Singapore, like we did in the past.
Yeah.
But this year we have almost equally large events here, physical, Schaffhausen, Dubai, Singapore.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good business model. The other thing that I noticed, and I'm actually going to do a piece on, was the COVID protocol that you have here. So for the listeners, you had to display a test, a negative test, within 72 hours, or get the rapid testing on site. And so I did that on Sunday, and it only took 10 minutes. I went up to my hotel room, I got a text on my phone, then I could go get my badge. So you had a protocol that you couldn't be badged for the conference without proof of the negative test. And then every day you do the temperature test at the base of the stairs. And so my compliments. Any thoughts on that? Because that was cool.
Right. I mean, I'm Singaporean citizen, and in Singapore we generally responded to COVID in the most pragmatic way. If you look at number of people who are sick, you would sort of look at 3 countries: Taiwan, Singapore, and China.
Yeah.
Now the thing about China, it's a very large internal market, so they closed up from the world, and so, but that's not a big deal for them because they have 1.5 billion people between the countries inside this wall, and so it's easy for them to close up. And then, if you think about Taiwan, they have closed up, and it has led partially to the semiconductor crisis, which is happening right now. And they had not so many sick people and not so many people who died. And in Singapore, we also have very few people dying and very few people sick. And we had very robust protocols from the very beginning. I was in Singapore when it started in March on how you handle quarantine, how you handle tests, and how you handle cases. And we sort of learned a little bit from that, and we tried to implement it.
Yeah, no, you sure did.
There is a lot of controversy in the United States, unfortunately, between different states on what is allowed, what is not allowed, whether you're allowed to test, not allowed to test, whether you have to vaccinate, not have to vaccinate, whether we have to force quarantine or cannot force quarantine. And you have to always navigate through this, complicated landscape. For us, we are a protection company. So for us, the most important thing is to keep people protective and productive.
No, I think that aligns real well. Any final thoughts on your new role or Acronis moving forward? And we'll let you
these
get
are
back
two
to
different
your
things.
conference.
My role is to do to create Acronis research, which is to some extent similar to things like IBM research, Microsoft research, but we're a smaller company, so it has to be more applied.
Yeah.
And there are many areas where we can focus the research. Particularly, there are areas related to machine intelligence and application to machine intelligence to managing and protecting workloads, enterprise products, global localization, and I've outlined some areas, but generally there is
in your keynote you did.
There is multiple other areas, but a lot of what you can do with research, because it's focused more on a 3 years to 10 years horizon, is to find the best talent in the world and to basically see how you can apply what this talent wants to do to what Acronis wants to do. Because quite often, if you find the most talented people, they don't necessarily want to change the direction.
Yeah.
And so we're looking for people. Now for Acronis, we will continue to enhance our cyber protection products. Mm-hmm. That's our focus. It's a huge market, and there is so many things we can still do much better. Our main focus is service providers and making service providers to be able to protect and manage, workloads, infrastructure, application systems, data for customers.
Yeah.
Historically SMB, and now more and more enterprise.
Enterprise, yeah. Well, I'll wrap up on this because you brought up research, and I go way back to the early Parallels days, and what I liked about Parallels, and I know you did a tour of duty over there, was they did primary research. Parallels did some really good primary research, which is pretty rare in the SMB space and less common than you think now in tech in general, right? That funding is kind of dried up.
I don't think it's dried up. I think it's just for smaller companies, it's not as common. But for Microsoft, Google, and IBM, and Oracle, and Amazon, it's pretty common. And Apple, so they do research. I mean, some of them talk about it, like Microsoft and IBM and Google. Some of them keep it more internal, like Amazon and Apple. But research is pretty common. We just want to stay a little bit step ahead of the future.
Yeah.
So the best way to be a step ahead of the future is to bring the future now back. So let's say, should a company of the size of Acronis have Acronis research? It's a question mark, but should a company of the size of Acronis in 2025 have Acronis research? Yes, and so we started now because we're pretty confident we're going to be the company we are planning to be in 2025. That way, by 2025, we already have established research organization which produce basic but also very applied research which we can use in cyber protection, cyber security, cyber infrastructure, cyber management, cyber automation, whatever we need.
All right, well, thank you for your time. I'll let you get back to a bustling conference out there.